group over there.
Seagull County again.
No, but this,
Mind your own business there, sir.
I didn't want to take all the blame for being second.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. And start off with a roll call.
Certainly. Delaware County, Ryan Hanel is excused. Patrice Bellameter is excused. Maggie Wilson is excused. Fulton County, Jennifer Elmendorf. Jack Farquhar.
Yeah.
Mark Van Allen. Tracy is excused. Mark Souza.
Here.
Hamilton County, Joyce Belidi.
Here.
Bill Belidi, present. Susan Franco is excused. Gary Wicks is excused. Montgomery County, John Pasquarelli.
Here.
Vicki Swartz. Here. Trish Green. Tony Agresta. I presume Tony's working. Osceola County, Sid Chase.
Here.
Beth McGowan.
Here.
Dr. Markowitz is excused. Dana Weigand is excused. Rich Kirschman.
Here.
Schoharie County, Ed Brandt.
Here.
Bill Beavers.
Here.
Ed Hillenbrand.
Here.
Dr. Frank Valois is excused. Mark Zeke is excused. Lou Jones is excused. And Dr. Leinhardt is present. And so we have a quorum.
All right. Everyone should have received the minutes from the September 15th meeting. Any questions, concerns? All right. I have a motion to approve those minutes. Sid? Second?
Second from Beth.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Against? All right. Introduction guests.
Our guests, we have Jill, members of the family. Jill Dunham, very welcome. Mary Raymond, who's here someplace.
She's on the conference call.
Kind of like a squirrel outside, okay. Deb Cuffs. Howard Hughes, a new resident of the region, so I'm told.
Yep.
I asked him what he was
excitement is
thinking, but
overwhelming.
You can't hold that against him, no. Roy Sweet, he's probably outside, and Marty Sheehan, who's our chauffeur today. Is Marty, Roy's over there. Marty must be outside. Okay, Marty's the first responder from ambulance. He had some speculative ambulance. I can't even think straight today. Marty was our chauffeur today because I'm slightly under the weather. I told people earlier that she's our designated driver because we're planning a party on later, but that's simply not true. Anyway, those are our guests. Anybody out? There we go.
All right. Correspondence. Phil was kind enough to make everybody a sheet. If there's any questions, certainly can see it. Chairman's report. Well, this is my first meeting as chair. I'm not going to give a 3-page speech, but certainly I appreciate the faith that you put in me to chair this committee, and hopefully I can bring some new ideas, a new thought process. EMS is changing, obviously. We're seeing it happen in this region. Just in the last few weeks, we've seen articles about Richmondville, JVAC. Things are happening in EMS, and this regional council has to be on the forefront and recognize those problems and work through them to make sure that we can provide the services that are needed to our region and the communities that we serve. So, I have, just like at work, an open door policy. There are definitely anybody who has ideas on what this regional council should be doing or shouldn't be doing. I'm certainly willing to listen. We need to change some of the ways that we did things 30 years ago. Not that Lou or anybody else wasn't doing that, but certainly things definitely need to change, and we need to work strong as a strong regional council. With that, the only other thing that I want to add when we talk about all of this, all of these changes, the state Bureau of Department of Health has their call 7 for the changing faces of EMS. For those of you who have participated in the prior 6 calls, it really brought to light a lot of things, not just in this region or with any particular agency, but throughout the state. And there are literally hundreds of people from everything, from first responders to fire departments to ambulance services that participate in these calls. And there are a lot of good ideas, a lot of thoughts, and it certainly brings a lot to light to DOH on things that not only DOH, the Bureau, but State Council needs to be working on. So call number 7 is on November 9th, and they've actually scheduled this meeting at 6 p.m. so that more people can participate. The prior 6 calls have been during the day, generally at about 10:30 or so. So this one we made at night so that we can hopefully get more input. If anyone needs the information on who to call or what number to call in on for the conference, I believe you received that email as well.
I have, yes.
So Phil can provide all of that
Sure.
information.
Just let me know and I will shoot you a copy of the email that I received from Lee Burns.
So I certainly look forward to being the chair. I think that we have a lot of work ahead of us as a group, and we'll work hard to get it done. With that, that is my report.
Thank you, sir. I have a short report, believe it or not. The yearly audit was conducted on October the 5th by Bonadillo and Company, LLP. They were formerly known as Hoover and Scott. They're quite a large accounting firm. Copies of the report will be distributed to all the members as soon as they're available, as I always do. And they said that they gave us preliminarily a very clean bill of health. A very clean bill of health. A lot of these audits are done. It's a benefit that they do it every year, so they don't have a lot of catching up to do. But a lot of these audits are done electronically now, and they look at a lot of stuff ahead of time before they ever show up in the office. So in any event, we have a new on-site scoring policy. As per REMAC discussions last month, and as per an email that I received from Lee Burns via Tom Pasquarelli, the on-site scoring now will be as follows. Somebody who wishes to have a Ryan, the record show Ryan is present. Somebody who wishes a tech number will apply based on the basis of their on-site scoring. They will be given a temporary provisional tech number until they get their card, at which time the tech number will become permanent. That, of course, includes their taking the credentialing exam, the online credentialing exam. So we can use the on-site scoring as on a temporary basis as per Lee Burns. And that's fine with me, and that's essentially what the REMAC talked about, pending a definitive letter from Lee, which we got since our last meeting. We do not have any notices of enforcement actions since this past month, and that's sort of my report.
All right, thank you. You look perplexed, Howard.
I'm just trying to figure out how to pass this along to my students. So, temporary provisional.
Yeah, in other words, I'm probably using too many roadblock type words.
You don't need both of those.
Pick one.
Somebody who wants a tech number now will fill out the application and will say on it just a couple of extra words that if this is based on on-site scoring, consider your tech number to be temporary until you actually receive your card from the state. In other words, when they receive their card from the state, they are then in the state database at that level. But in the meantime, they can use the on-site scoring to practice temporarily.
So essentially all it's saying is that we're just trying to bridge the gap because that on-site scoring doesn't get reported to the state for a couple weeks.
Right, between 2 and 3 weeks.
So you have paramedics that are not able to practice. On the on-site scoring results, it says that this is your temporary certification card
Correct.
for 60 days. So no region where it has been the understanding by many regions that paramedics were not allowed to practice at the ALS level.
But they are, because that is their certification.
That is their certification, and maybe we need to match the wording on our application to what that certification states, that this will be your tech number for 60 days from the date of your examination. And then some way we can have that so that it comes up, and if they expire and we haven't received their card, maybe as maybe we need to reach out to the agency and say, hey, did they actually pass the test?
Well, actually, I can go into the health commerce system and take a look at the state database. You appear at your advanced level of training on the date that your card goes out to you. So
You could also,
routinely I check after, for on-site scoring folks, I check routinely after 2 weeks.
could also just issue it and make it the provider's responsibility to get you the original card when it arrives.
Well, they have to get it to the agency. That's
Right.
a necessity.
Okay.
All right, treasurer's report.
Okay, on September 19th, we received a check from the Department of Health in the amount of $10.12 keyed to the program agency contract. I have absolutely no idea why we received that check for $10.12. It was apparently a late payment fee, but they haven't had a late payment for going on 2 years. However, I have deposited the check for $10.12 and we await further developments on it. I have no idea why we got that, but we did get it and it was keyed to our program agency contract. On September 30th, we forwarded to the Department of Health a claim for payment and deliverables for the period from July 1st through September 30th for the council contract. That voucher was in the amount of $3,095.62. On the same date, the claim for payment and deliverable for the program agency contract was also forwarded. That voucher was in the amount of $34,702.56. These were all sent via email as per the new Department of Health regulations, which is really very user-friendly, I have to say that. We received confirmation on October 3rd from Tom Behana at the Department of Health that all the documents had been received, and we got the check on October the 11th. Contrast this with 3 years ago when we waited 5 months. It's incredible. It's marvelous. It's a very, very good system. Printed report of the cash flow and balance sheet was distributed to all the members. The members of our Oversight Committee first received the detailed cash flow balance sheets and register reports, plus the copies of canceled checks as per the audit review arrangements, and their report is.
Everything was found to be complete and accurate.
Motion on the treasurer's report.
Motion on the treasurer's report? Sid?
Yeah.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Sorry, I'm certainly not opposed, but Joyce and I will abstain as staff members.
All right.
Is he speaking
Committee
to me
report.
again?
What's that?
Is he speaking
Yes,
to me? Yes. Sorry, because I'm having a
The
conversation.
state calls that a sidebar.
All right.
Sidebar.
Training committee.
That's you. Right, thank you. That's a, yeah, thinker. Well, that was part of the sidebar we're having. Let's see, in training, 3 things mainly. The teaching day, we have 35 enrolled at this point.
Could I interpose?
No.
Mark Souza just advised me.
Are you speaking for me again?
No, sir. After 35 years, I know better. Mark dropped off 8 more this morning, so we have 43 now.
Okay.
Excuse me, 41. 33 and 8, 41.
Very good. So we have 41 enrolled. Nathan Latour Hospital was generous, very generous, and has offered to pay for the lunch for the teaching day. That frees up some money, so we were able to purchase flash drives for everyone. And we're going to put on those flash drives, they're going to get copies of the 3 booklets that I did. One was the designated infection control officer's handbook that has the main, all the information about Ryan White and so forth. There's one that has all of the forms, the suggested forms that you can use to send the information to the receiving hospital or receiving facility and so forth, and that kind of thing, incident forms and so forth. So just suggestions for that. And the third one has all the exposure guidelines for HIV, HBV, hepatitis B, and hepatitis C. We'll also include a copy of all the slides that are I'm doing on the laws and the standards. I'm not going to include the introduction, the conclusion, and so forth, unless if somebody wants them, I certainly will email them to them. And also a couple other things that the Ryan White law, the notification section, Part G of the Ryan White law, also the Federal Register for the Ryan White law in 2009, and several other very important documents that every infection control officer, every designated officer actually, really needs to have. So all that stuff will be on a flash drive. They'll be able to take it home and go with it. So that's the update. Not the update. The teaching day. Anybody have any questions on that? The Mountain Lakes and Remo have made actually Deb had a conversation with Gene Taylor regarding a possible cooperative effort with Mountain Lakes, Remo, and ourselves in an instructor update, that we would all be able to teach an instructor update probably in several different forms. We would do the day long that we usually do. Maybe one of them would do like a couple evenings, that kind of stuff, and have it the same material taught, so that if somebody misses one of the days or something like that, or only can take a half day here or something like that, they can go to the other region. Gene Taylor said that they would be very accepting, to look at that kind of idea and do it. So she came up with some ideas, and I'll let Deb explain what her ideas are of something that could be done in that form. Go ahead.
Well, it's not so much what ideas, because this is my first approach here to AAREMS. I haven't approached Travis in Mountain Lakes as to his ideas. What came about was a discussion with Gene Taylor, and Gene said that she would favorably entertain a collaborative effort on instructor updates, so that maybe we stop killing all of our instructors trying to do these things. So with that kind of semi-approval to go ahead and look at things, I approached Joyce and Travis, both who said, yep, we'd be willing to take a look at that kind of collaboration. So that's how far we've gotten. The possibilities would be to video, or actually here's the possibilities. Have an instructor give the same content 3 different places. Great, I'm sure the state would approve that, but we'd still be killing instructors. The second possibility would be to video the instructor the first time he or she gives the content, and then have that instructor available by some kind of electronic format, whether it be GoToMeeting or Skype or something, that they're immediately available in the next 2 time frames for questions. On site would be a CIC or a regional faculty member available to answer state programming questions. The third would be to video that person, have this regional faculty member available on site, but have the content expert available to take text or email questions, and the person on site would then gather all of that information and email it out to the entire group. Again, trying not to kill every instructor that we have along our 3 regional areas. So that's where we're going. What kinds of ideas? Well, some of them lend themselves to questions that have been posed already to both Remo and AAREMS. What a new agency officers know when they become agency officers. And I mean, I guess this snicker and giggle is not much, or they would have become an agency officer. But in all seriousness, what do they know? What do they learn? How do they learn about being an agency officer from the requirements level? How do they manage a scene? What kind of paperwork gets turned in? Organizational strategies. From an instructor setup, from teaching, learning. How do you set up a scenario? Sometimes you'll see an instructor that wants to put 45 objectives into the day one scenario, which just isn't going to work. How do you assess reliability and validity, not only of your written testing instruments, but of your lab sessions and your state testing? So those were just some ideas that kind of came up. Joyce is going to do some brainstorming, and of course I'll be poking at Travis to give us some things too. So that's where we are. But the general thing is that we're in agreement that we should stop killing our instructors.
On that note, has anybody had any instructors that either are unwilling to take the new exam or have failed the new exam and basically said, that's it, they're not going to take it again? Has anybody had any instructors drop out because of that?
The only instructors I'm aware of who did not pass the instructional exam first time around have very much indicated they want to take it again.
Okay. I was just curious if anybody's really gotten to the point where, they said, I don't want to, enough is enough, and they're not going to do it because of the new exam. But just curious. Thanks, Deb. The third thing is that I got a request from Otsego County via Beth McGowan, who did it as secretary of the EMS council there, on they want some type of agency leaders guidelines. How to basically in service a new agency leaders to what they need to know as an agency captain or leader of some sort. We were talking this morning as to what type of format that should be in. I don't know, we talked a little bit. Beth, do you have any thoughts on the format that you think is the best for that kind of thing?
No, I think it was just something that we could begin to toss around and think about format.
Yeah, okay. We talked this morning about how it could be done. Maybe possibly doing a full day introduction, like in the form of a teaching day for agency leaders, and then go on from there with things that could be done, like short PowerPoint programs that could be done in the county, at the county level, or something to that. We could do just a small handbook with guidelines, tips, that kind of thing for them. There is, if you remember that huge agency, I don't know what they call it, the agency guide or something like that.
Guideline.
Operational guides, yeah. That's still out there. It's far outdated at this point. But you get some ideas from that, what can be included. I would certainly be willing to do this. I think it could be a huge undertaking, or it can be just I know there's several, this is being done around the state in several formats, although John Politis does one, and they are taking, asking for quite a bit of money to go to these. Anybody have any thoughts on this?
I do think you need some sort of end product that can be handed from generation to generation. There are squads that do turn over leadership on a yearly basis, if not shorter than a yearly basis. And I think you need an end product that can help them quickly educate themselves on what their responsibilities and the applicable laws and forms and everything that they need to be aware of. They can be handed down from captain to captain or be available through the region for captain to captain.
You talking about doing this as a one-time thing? Or every year we're gonna do this, you know, this is a new yearly training and whoever's been elected over the last year or so would attend, you know, be invited to attend from whatever squads and, because stuff changes so often, just having the, you know, you're not really gonna create a Bible to hand down.
We're talking safe forms.
I think you could do it in a handbook type thing, but it would have to be very generic. I mean, it couldn't be specific as to things because they do change so often. One of the things was how to, you know, basically how to go to the website and find things on the website, because there's a lot of there's huge volume of resources on the state website, but a lot of people don't know that they're there and don't go looking for them, just forms and stuff like that. The other thing is, like Mary suggested, just taking the inspection worksheet that they use when they go and inspect an agency, and start with that, and you know, go through that, and that covers the gamut of the major responsibilities of an agency leader. And then something to do with, you know, succession planning. How do you plan? What do you do to plan to tell your next officer, somebody who's succeeding you? That, I think, is one of the biggest problems, because they hand over the torch and that's the end of it. The first captain wants to forget everything he ever knew about agency leadership. The second he hands over the torch, a lot of them, and they don't plan to, or they don't do anything in trying to teach their successors. So that's a big problem, and it could be, we could do a lot just if we had our agency leaders now that are willing to shepherd the new ones along, but it just doesn't seem to be happening. So anyway, so you're thinking about almost like a handbook, generic type thing that everybody could take and say, this is.
Yeah, I think a lot of new agency people don't even know that they should have an infection control DO, that they should have someone that's managing their CME program if they have one. You know, I think there's just a lack of knowledge passed from leader to leader. This is what you should have in your structure. This is the things you need to be aware of, you know.
Okay, if anybody has any thoughts on that, I would certainly be willing to take that on. It's going to be a long winter. And I will sit down and I will put some thoughts together, and when it gets to the point where it starts snowing and there's ice, I'm not going to be able to get out. So I'll send them to you and see what you think, and if you have any thoughts, please send them back to me, and as to what should be included in that type of document. Maybe a 3-ring binder with just generic stuff included, starting with the agency inspection workshop and a guide to the state website, and other things. So I'll start putting some thoughts together.
My thought is that an electronic binder is better than a hard copy binder. The state is moving that direction too, with all kinds of official documents, official notifications.
Yeah, I could do that. I mean, I could make it available either in a hard copy binder or just on a flash drive.
Right.
Whichever way.
Just my immediate perception is that the electronic version would be longer lasting at the squad level than a hard copy version.
Until they, eliminate the flash drive and go to something else, like all the CDs around. you know.
Well, it's also easier to take one page out and put another
Sure.
page in if the state updates something.
Yep.
Would it be
So-
would it be something we could add to the website, the agency website, or the regional website?
Sure.
That way, as stuff comes, new stuff comes in, just be an update on the
Yeah.
agency website.
Yeah, we got plenty of room on the website.
I will, I'll start putting some thoughts together, and as to what we would include in something like that, and, we'll go from there. And that is, I believe, that's training.
Thank you. Transportation and standards.
Okay, September 19th, we received an application for the transfer of operating authority from the quote, Wells Volunteer Ambulance Corp., end quote, so worded on their official certificate. It was originally a part of the Wells Fire Department with a request that operating authority be transferred to the Wells Volunteer Ambulance Corps Incorporated, which was a newly formed not-for-profit corporation. The application was forwarded to the members of the committee with appropriate redactions in place. On the same date, to review for completeness, it was found there was a need for some minor revision, and it was forwarded to Mr. Clayton at the Department of Health on October the 11th with the revision in place. On October the 12th, both Mr. Clayton and Mr. Jonas replied, with Mr. Jonas detailing a number of lengthy revisions that were needed. And then his reply was forwarded to the members of the committee, and the original hard copy of the application was returned to the applicant with a copy of Mr. Jonas' reply. In other words, back to the old drawing board with the Wells TOA. Hopefully, the revision that will meet state approval will be ready in time for a vote at our November meeting. That's our goal anyway, but we'll see what happens.
Is Dan taking it back, or is Dana going with it?
Well, I have no idea. Dana is handling the TOA.
Dana's handling it now?
Yeah. Dana is a very fine gentleman who is very meticulous as far as details go on an application. Hence the revisions that will be necessary. That's my report, sir.
Thank you. The only thing I want to add is obviously most small agencies, I realize they don't have huge funds. But the state is really cracking down on these applications. And they're looking at these consolidations for several different reasons. Number one is agencies that want to break away from fire departments so that they can become independent and bill because they think they're going to be better off. That isn't always the case, and certainly isn't the case in today's day and age with all the changes in DISRIP and the Medicare changes. So, you know, the state is really looking at this. They want to make sure that when they're doing TOAs and these consolidations, that organization has sustainability. So again, while I know they don't have tons and tons of money, I don't think that it's always acceptable in this day and age that, you know, squad captains can hopefully just fill out applications and submit them in. They really need to talk to somebody that's familiar with this, whether it's a different agency, whether it's EMS attorneys, or even, you know, calling Dana and Dan. This is the second time that this application has been kicked back right now, and who knows where it's going to go from this point is, you know, how many more times is it got to come back to us? And we are certainly not always the experts on these.
A little sidebar on that is that that application asks for the population there, which is 750 people. That's, I don't understand how they expect to make go of this.
It's right. It's going to be a very difficult scenario.
By the way, the Wells Ambulance does not intend to build the services. They don't intend to build the services. No, they just wanted to get out from, excuse my wording, get out from under the fire company. The fire company wanted to divest themselves of the Wells Ambulance. And again, that sounds kind of rough in the wording. There was no animosity or difficulty. They felt the Wells Ambulance should be a freestanding organization. So therefore they founded their own not-for-profit corporation. And,
but Phil, in the same sense, I mean, we're seeing, you know, they don't want to bill right now.
right.
But we deal with it at Northampton. It seems like every year the board comes up with an idea that we should bill. And these small agencies, including Wells, because they've looked at billing before, and I'm sure it's gonna get on the hot fire again, is how do we express to them the concerns for their agency when they take that step? I mean, I don't know, I mean, it's gonna keep coming up.
Right. Well,
These towns think they're gonna make money,
And I don't think
and
a
as a
lot,
region, well, what do we do?
I think a lot of these ambulances that move to a 503C status or a not-for-profit status don't realize that they then become responsible for ALS discharges. Once they become eligible to bill, they have to bill the ambulance service. If I don't know who would get on an ALS system, I just don't know the geography up there as well, but if they were to have someone like Adirondack or CMT or something that does ALS assist, they're going to be incurring debt for that, and I don't think they realize it.
Especially if they're not.
Absolutely. The call volume, I mean, in Hamilton County in general is so low that.
About 650 calls a year, the whole county.
Are they looking to bill?
Well, they have mentioned, that this has been, it's been back and forth
The
at
town
this
board in
moment in
times
time.
past, the town board in times past in Wells has urged them to start
Oh, yeah.
billing. And so far they have resisted, saying that we lose money.
But here it comes again, our town board brought it up to us. Wells's town board is in the discussion again. I mean, it just keeps coming up.
Right. Just off the top of my head, Joe, perhaps one of the best things we can do is refer them to agencies that have tried this and say, talk.
And failed?
Yes, exactly. Talk to such and such, because we all know the rule of thumb, you have to have X number of calls a year before you can even consider making any money on billing.
And 2 years ago, it was at least 250 calls. We had researched this.
Yeah, it's.
And I'm sure it's much higher
It's up to
than
500 or
that.
600.
It's about 650.
Yeah.
It's about 600.
Pretty
there.
650.
It used to be that.
But I mean, I don't think
But
they
that's fifty
realize
transports,
the
right?
financial
Not calls for
obligations they
service.
take on
Right,
by
that
taking
was
ALS
prior to
and the ALS assist.
specialization.
Yeah.
Now it's probably much higher because of that.
All right. State council report, there is nothing to report. Our next meeting is in January. I did tell you about the call 7, which is consolidation. That talks about consolidation at POH. Again, Phil has that number. That's it for that. Regional program update.
Program update, the very nice Dell laptop computer that the region got for Joyce back in April has been
I killed it.
has been a disappointment. It's gone back to Dell. They replaced some of the software. It has come back to us, and it's really no better than it was when it went back to Dell. Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
It's the last time you get something like this.
One way or the other, we'll get satisfaction.
I don't want one of them again.
One way or the other, we'll get satisfaction about it. But Dell has tried to be very cooperative. One of the problems, no offense to them at all, one of the problems with the Dell technical support, when you dial that number, it goes to India.
Oh.
And these nice folks are, again, very helpful, but because of their accent, it is very difficult to understand the English that they're speaking. And that complicates things. So far, I've spent a little over 4 hours on the phone total with the Dell customer support in India. And apparently I'm going to be spending a little bit more time.
Plus, it's gone back to the
It went back to
technical
a
support.
depot in Texas, I guess, and came back with a new wireless card, and it's still misbehaving. So stay tuned. Right now, Joyce is using our little Microsoft Surface, which is our own personal little tablet.
I
That's
shrunk
working.
the other one too.
That's
It's working
That's
good.
working quite well. It's to the point now when the FedEx man delivers it back to us, he'll say, which one of you killed it this time? So, in any event, that's my report on program updates.
You, Matt. No update. County reports.
Okay, no,
Guys here, he can give a report.
Joyce, any report on what's going on in Hamilton County?
No, it's supposed to snow Saturday.
Yeah.
You can get started on that
Nothing
baby.
new.
Plows around the trucks.
Fulton? Jack? Fulton?
Nothing new.
All right, Montgomery.
We did open our new emergency our new EOC is now out of the flood zone. Yes. And it's tornado proof and hurricane proof. They did comment on that, so that's where we start. Other than that, nothing.
Let's see, go.
Since our last meeting, we started a new basic class, and the next
Wow.
history.
Good.
Sounds kind of up to Montgomery County.
No, thank you.
Mr. Harry?
We're halfway through our new dispatch center that's being moved to higher ground, obviously, after the flood. And they're working on that at present. The only other thing is the Richmondville ambulance situation. Ed's here, he can speak about it if anybody was interested, I guess.
We have secured funding to keep operating through June of 2016. 17, thank you. Hopefully we will be able to secure the funding to continue through the rest of next year and get that funding stabilized. As was discussed with the wells and billing, for those who aren't familiar, Richmondville has relied on billing and donations for most of its existence, taking no tax dollars for the last 20 years. With sequestration, with ACA and such, it's not enough anymore. Not for a volunteer agency, and obviously you need a lot more calls than we had. So that's where it's at, and now it's a lot of politicians. So if Wells wants to call us up, be my guest.
Great. Howard?
Just a question, and for clarity, I'm not wearing my City College hat, I'm wearing my brand new resident hat. How many calls a year, and are anybody tracking percentage of dropped calls? And this isn't throwing stones at Richmondville, this is just, it's happening everywhere. Within 2 weeks, I think we got 3 notices of ambulance services closing in the relative area. And I wonder if regionally we want to start looking at this. I know in the past, Remo turned around and basically put out an advisory that had said, once you track a quarter where you're dropping 10% of your calls, you need to come up with a plan to make sure that you can address it. I think if we get ahead of the curve on this, at least we'd have some understanding of what's going on, so we don't have sudden closings. Because as much as I think it's great that you're going to be able to stay open until June, what happens then? And what happens if all of a sudden the funding falls through? Voorheesville, for example, that was just in the news, did not have a dissolution clause in its bylaws, which fortunately there's another area that has a CON and they're able to cover it, but it left them in the lurch also. So, Ed.
Well, to answer your question, Howard, the government of Richmondville has been aware of this verbally for over 18 months and in writing for over 12 months. And that's where the local politics comes into it. It was an election issue during our town election last year, so it's something they are aware of. We have to deal with that. As far as how many calls a year annually, previous when I was employed by them, we were taking about 225 or so. We were able to survive on that, but not thrive.
What percentage of your calls were you turning over?
At that time, we were turning over very few. We were turning over less than 5%. Now, we're probably turning over, not probably, we are turning over a lot more. Very simply, I have to work, and we don't have the people.
Good.
So, while we've stabilized the financial part for six to 9 months, the next issue is getting recruits. And we've been talking with Bassett, the Bassett system. One of the problems we have is it's a dying town. We've lost 300 people since 2010. And in a small town of 2,600, that's a significant chunk of change.
Do you have, I confess I don't really know the answer to this, obviously, but do you have a kind of a resort bump up in population in the season or not?
No. Unfortunately, and this is unique, I think, to Richmondville, it is a bedroom community of Colvissville.
Oh.
That was what the mayor has tried to do for 20 years, and he's been very successful. There's very few businesses in Richmondville except for a couple gas stations and a diner.
You have funding?
Oh yeah, we have.
The funding coming from the municipality?
The town has, the village has not agreed to it, and that is an issue.
And Delaware.
Where I had a question.
I don't think the question of Wells is whether they got the funding
Right.
to run or not. Wells obviously has money to operate their agency. The thing is, Wells wants to become an independent agency from the town.
And hopefully they're successful in keeping it at that, is what I'm saying.
Correct.
Their town has brought up I mean, we deal with it, we're independent, we still deal with it, these town boards don't understand.
Correct.
And, your agency can fight it, but with these small communities, if your community gets behind the town board to bill, what are you gonna do? You're gonna respond to your community, because you have to. So how do we make people aware that billing for these small towns is not a
It's
good
not
idea?
profitable, and Wells is fully aware of that.
Wells Ambulance is fully aware of that.
Correct.
Town of Wells is not.
The supervisor there is a different person, but he's on
Right.
the last.
My thought process is when you're trying to break free from a town or a municipality, what happens when they want to break free from the funding?
Right.
As a town or municipality, I think the residents have more of a recourse to go back to their elected officials because there's no ambulance service as opposed to it being a private company. And the town cuts their funding, and then there's nothing, and then the town can just say, well, it's not our problem. They no longer want to be a part
Exactly,
of the town
that's what I'm trying to say.
So, that would be my concern in Wells in particular, is them breaking free from the town, and the town saying, well, we're not going to fund a private company or a private organization that is no longer part of the town.
It's no different than a volunteer fire department, a volunteer fire company. The fire company that I'm involved in is actually a company. We contract with the town, so it would be the same, it would work the same way, correct?
Well, it could, but if the town doesn't want a contract, or the town doesn't want to fund it, they don't have to.
But they're gonna have to contract with somebody.
No, they
Somebody
don't.
has to-
They
somebody
don't.
has
By
to take
law,
care of
they
that.
do
By
not
law,
have
they don't.
to provide fire, EMS, or police. A county is required by law to provide a civil office and a jail. They don't need police protection, fire protection, EMS protection. That is law. So there is nothing that says they have to fund a fire company, fund an EMS agency, or have a police department. So that is the real issue in towns and municipalities are getting away from that. And they no longer
We've
want.
taken town funding, and so far we've been able to hold the wolves off as far as them pushing us to bill, even though Northampton we're our own entity. But if they get the people behind them and say, look, you should bill, they're gonna cut their funding off to us, we're gonna be forced to bill, we're done. And I would hate to see the same thing happen to Wells, because Northampton and Wells seem to share.
I understand what you're talking
You know
about,
what
but
I
I
mean?
just don't, I don't know, maybe it's my mindset where I
I get
can't
it.
see, especially up in Hamilton County, them saying, we're not giving you any money, or we're gonna push you to bill where a
What did
company
they just
doesn't
do with
have
the
to.
last ambulance?
You know, I
When they
just,
ordered their ambulance? You don't do it our way, now you can call up and cancel your ambulance order. And that's exactly what happened. So, but it's not just Wells, it's all these small towns, and we have a lot of small towns in this region, and it's becoming a domino effect.
It's not just small towns, it's tough.
Well, it's not,
And
but
forgive me
living in an
for
area where
interjecting,
we
but
have a lot of small towns,
The
we see
hardest
this.
part of all of this
It's
is
bad.
recognizing that whether volunteer or paid, you are a subcontractor to a governmental entity.
And you just play the politics, that's all you do.
When the governmental entities figure out that they aren't required to be spending this money in a day and age where money's tight.
And instead of doing that, they make sure the town pool's open. Yep.
Delaware County?
Nobody here from Delaware?
Everybody's here.
Oh,
I'm sorry, man.
I thought so.
Excuse it.
Going along the same lines with all the other agencies, Delaware County is attempting to try to stay ahead of the curve. Last month we had a forum with all the agencies, or offer to all the agencies, as far as the future of EMS in Delaware County. We had representatives from the state, different state EMS, Joe Farrell and Lee Burns were there, giving us some ideas and whatnot. We did form a committee to dive into it further, report back probably at the beginning of the new year in our county as far as the all the agencies. Just trying to find out if there's any way that we can assist all the agencies, either whether it be consolidating, pulling resources, or what can we do to help our county agencies.
Ryan, could I ask you, what is the state of broadband in Delaware County? Computer access.
As far as like for the,
just in general, I mean,
have it.
Our agencies.
they do. Cell services, hit and miss.
Yeah.
But for the most part, broadband is available. It's the cell coverage is.
Would you say, would it be fair to say that, and I'm truly speaking from ignorance on this, would it be fair to say that most of the agencies, most EMS agencies in Delaware County have computer access reasonably well?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
You wondering because they don't respond to you, or?
Huh? No, just
personally.
in line with the training initiative that we're talking about. No, they respond. When they want something, they hear from them.
When we want something, we don't hear from them, but when they do, we hear from them.
It's the same at the county level as well. It's not just the region.
I said it a little bit in the beginning, and certainly last month, is we are in a dying, ambulance service is a dying breed. With everything that's happening, in small agencies certainly are not on board with a lot of this stuff. Medicare has a plan, this district plan, that takes effect, it should be in full operation by 2018. Realistically, it's probably not, and it is probably going to end up being a huge failure. In Medicare, in particular, by 2020, the end of 2020, there are going to be, whether we like it or not, half of the ambulance services that we have today. And we have to change the role. The role of all of these plans is to not bring patients to the hospital. And ambulance services, that's exactly what we're in business to do. Hospitals are going to be penalized. There are going to be bundled payments. The payment system alone is going to be overhauled into a fact that EMS is going to receive an even smaller portion of probably what they're receiving today. So I know Maggie was recognized at the state level as one of the few counties that have been on the forefront of this in meeting with the agencies. And this region is going to have to do that in the very near future. Consolidation is not going to be options. It's going to be a necessity in order for us to stay alive. And we have to drop the egos and the power and work together to make sure that this system is going to work. We are going to have to branch into different things, maybe contracting with counties or hospitals to go out and take blood pressures and glucose levels and do transitional care and home inspections to help prevent falls. That is exactly what these phone calls are about. And whether we like it, or not, EMS is late to the game, and we are going to be written out. If you don't see it in your area already, you're already seeing private companies getting into this home health care service. Just in Montgomery County alone, we have that popping up. And that's exactly what they're after. They're after our dollars. So, small agency, big agency, it doesn't matter what size. We need to get to the table and we need to change our thought that we're not going to be bringing patients to the hospital nearly as much as we are today, and we need to change our role. We're working hard to change the laws in New York for community paramedicine, which is a necessity for us. And if those laws don't change in time for us, or in time for when all of this stuff is taking place, we're going to be forced out of business in bankrupt. That's the reality of it. So I agree, and you know, it's time maybe we bring some other people to this table to discuss exactly those things and to see how other regions and other counties are doing things. So with that, old business. Any old business? Anybody? New business?
You see in the correspondence, there was a discussion from Dr. Markowitz about in our county, an agency level of service. Was there a change?
Morris ambulance, gone back to BLS. Morris ambulance has gone back to BLS.
Any other new business? All right, motion to adjourn.
At 13:56.
Thank you all.
Counting.
Very good.
I think 37-17, rematch.
Teeth in?
I got teeth. Teeth. Tubes.